Yes, BNR,
Belarusian Folk Republic.
Yes, was organized. So and they choose this flag as the main.
And now it became a symbol of the oppositional forces.
Yeah, it's also, if I may add,
yes.
this is very one top 3 questions. How come you have this official red, yellow, no, red,
white, red.
I've abolished from my memory. Green and red one is kind of official state flag, but all the protests using this white, red, white colors. So white, red, white is historically has been always been the flag of the country before the Soviet Union, back in 500 years' time when it was an independent duchy. Then history changed, Belarus lost its sovereignty, then it regained it briefly, then the flag was again the official colors. And then in the 90s, when the Soviet Union fell, and 1991, all the countries became independent again, white, red, white became again the official symbol of the country. And Lukashenko, when he was elected, his first pictures are with that flag. And then 2 years later, he changed all the official symbolics to all this crap. Sorry, because it utilizes all this Soviet symbolism and has nothing to do with our history. And since then, he also kind of marginalized those colors and make the enemy of something that is historically ours.
And we've seen some creative protests where people were hanging their underpants in white, red and white in front of the windows, for example, when they were not allowed to hang outside.
Yes, or they also used the bottles of wine. So they would put the white bottle, red bottle and white bottle together. Yeah, that has the creative, as Rufina mentioned, that has been also a very integrative part of what was going on, which also made it inclusive because people kind of felt really empathic and related to what was going on.
And apart from the creativeness of the protest, it's also very much focused on, it's often depicted as a women's revolution, but it's also very much about the peaceful prospect of the revolution. And in my opinion, it's almost fascinating if you compare it to other revolutions, how peaceful it has been for such a long time. So, is it a women's revolution? Is it still a peaceful revolution?
Of course. Hello. We still have a leader, Sviatlana, who has become a face of this revolution. I mean, the entire trio with Maria Kolesnikova, Veronika Tsepkala, and Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya on the eve of the elections. And then what happened on the 9th of August, when the elections were held, they were falsified. People went out to the streets, and then the night on the 10th of August has been extremely violent. All this it has really a massive, absolutely unprecedented turnout of people, never ever before. I mean, the protest has been there in the after every election there has been some kind of public disobedience, but not on a scale like this. And then also has been the police violence, not on the scale known before. And after the 9th and the 10th, it really had this danger to escalate to the complete violence because police was just really ruthless, and the people that have been taken hostages, they were tortured and everybody knew that. And there was a group of girls, separate group of girls actually, who were thinking about, okay, how can we maintain this thing going? Because if that would escalate to total violence, the protest would never exist because nobody would take part in that. It was just a very small amount of population. So they come up with this idea of this women in white, which then on the 11th of August was the first day of this flash mob with different groups of women who actually went out to the streets and just were standing there in white or were performing the Kalehanka, which is like a lullaby, the national lullaby. And that gave this a completely new turn and new meaning because again, that became inclusive. The people stopped seeing this as a violence, stopped seeing this, as like a robust use or like drunkards or on the streets. They saw these women that this protest has absolutely friendly and peaceful face, and that really gave it alive. And then there's a question of if it's peaceful, how it remained peaceful, because that's the only way for protest to exist, because any violent conflict is completely exclusive. It's very, you cannot take part in it as a normal citizen, and then it escalates situation to the level of conflict which cannot be resolved. And also, Sviatlana would have never ever gained that much international recognition and support if the conflicts would have turned violent.
Rufina, in the documentary, the other main character said, "What does theater achieve right now? We gotta tell them into their faces that they are bastards, basically." Is it again already the time of theater, of art, to, I don't know, to help people deal with and cope with this situation? Or is it still the time to tell them into their faces that they are bastards?
Which people do you mean?
I don't know, the ones in charge. I mean, no, I mean, like, what is there to do for the people that are making art right now?
Yeah, but you know, art has different forms. So some of them could be more gentle, and some could be like, as he said on the video, like not violence or like a weapon. Maybe could be the art and a weapon. Yes, I think it's like this because you know, like performances and, for example, Belarusian activist artist. Kuzmich, Alexei Kuzmich, he's a performer, and like usually he uses this very hard method of protest and art methods. But at the same time, as for me, I prefer more gentle way, but not flat, but I would like to go deeper and to touch something inside people, but at the same time not to be very superficial. Thank you. You know, because the ornament can be. Yes, and I think it's very important for artists to it's important to talk about things that taught you from inside. So that's why I just still speaking about the situation in Belarus.
One last question before I open the floor for your questions. Dennis in the documentary said nothing will change, they won't forget what we did, and they're only gonna tighten the screws on basically on the hold of the population. Is this unfortunately, as of now, still a true analysis?
Well, yes and no. Obviously, we see that nowadays the state of terror is unprecedented in the country. It's safe to say that probably every fifth person on that video and the march has been a target of repression. I told you the story that last week the girl was sentenced, I think, to 2 years of prison on the criminal charge because her hair was white and red. People are grabbed from the streets on a daily basis. Their houses are being robbed. So the state of terror, it is actually, as it was mentioned, getting as tight as it's never been before in the history of the independent Belarus.
Sorry to interrupt you. I think you said it's at least 50,000 people that have witnessed some form of repression.
No, I said that if you look at this, because the film is like the best reference, everybody just saw it. So you could, every fifth person definitely on this video, in this crowd, was a target of some sort of repression, had to flee the country or was imprisoned. But that does not mean that it will not change, because again, the amount of people that's spoken up is unprecedented. This is the first time when we have a witness that the majority of population have voted no, and the people were not just voting and then staying at home, they were ready to show up every single day for all this time. And also the terror and this, again, the government, Lukashenko, has sanctioned the tortures of his own people. This can never ever be forgotten. Every second, every Belarusian has a friend or a relative or a colleague who has been a victim of what has happened. And this cannot go unnoticed. People will not forget that. So, and the chances of this to survive any longer are ground to zero. This just takes a bit longer time, yes, as we all hoped and expected. This we are on this path, on this way to this new Belarus, to this free country, and there is no way around it. This will happen.
Questions? Anybody? We've got 2 microphones. Not sure, but I'm not seeing the hands, or there aren't any.
Guys, do not afraid to ask the questions. I understand that. First of all, thank you very much for showing up. This is my first time in Innsbruck. Honestly, having such a surrounding, I'm not sure I will devote my evening to watch some film about the far remote country with a crazy psycho in power. So thank you very much. This helps a lot us as well to know that there are people who actually care and know what's going on. And also, there is no wrong questions. I spend, as I told you, every single day talking to people in the country, and understand that even their questions are being in the country sometimes do not give them a complete transparency or understanding of what's going on. So I can only imagine that being far away does not make it easier. So whatever you want, this is your chance to get a first-person account.
You're screening the movie in Austria, and as far as I know, the Austrian Telecom is a big telecom provider in Belarus, and it was in the movie that do you have a signal, like was it, when did they turn down the system, or was it a problem for the protesters to communicate?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Actually, yes, it's A1 company who actually has been very tolerant to Belarusians, and we do not vilify them, because actually they were one of the few foreign companies who actually made everything possible to maintain the communication. And yes, the communication system has been always shut down on the protest days, so the mobile communication and even internet was shut down. But for A1, if, for example, there was a direct order from the state, so if they would have refused that, they will be just expelled and their business would shut down. And then during all this time, they have been quite vocal about what was going on. They were very supportive of their own people, and actually they have been behaving in a very good and affordable way. So I would not make them as a villain in this story, but in Austria, you have a Raiffeisenbank, which still is working with our state banks, which allow them for all the money transactions, which directly supports our head dictator who tortures and represses people daily. Which means if you think about what can we do, or what can Austria can do, you could put enough public pressure, because this is a private business and nothing can really be done on the governmental level. But with companies like that, and there was an example with Yara, with a Norwegian potash company that buys from Belarus Kali, that have become very engaged once there was enough outspoken public attention to their company, with the pickets and all the letters sent to their headquarters, and also because of really unfavorable comments in Twitter and on Facebook. So that is talking about Austria. You can, if you think about what can be done, you can think about that. I hope I will not be followed by the headquarters. But if they're representative of Raiffeisen, you're welcome in New Belarus. There will be much better conditions for you to work.
I think there's another question on the very top.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much for being amazing. And secondly, I wanted to ask if there's any source that you would recommend to keep myself posted on what is happening in Belarus, just because you said it's quite hard to get good information and stay updated. Do you have anything that you would recommend for that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for your compliment. Likewise. Yes, there is this amazing project which is called Voices of Belarus, which is actually a huge network of, it exists in English and in German, I guess, as well. They have this, so they basically bring the news to the international audience from the local news providers, and for all the best news or the most relevant news are there.
Thank you.
Stimmen aus Belarus, they have also this German edition as well.
Thanks a lot.
Got another question over there on the right.
Hi, my question is, how important is the Belarusian language? Like we see in Ukraine, it's a political statement. How is it in Belarus?
Do you want to answer that question? No, just to share the fair amount of answers with Rufina. Yes, thank you for the question. Belarusian language is obviously a very important thing for us, and it's unfortunately, just for the position of the state, has become kind of a weapon in a way that the state itself has marginalized the language back in the 90s, because they were so eager on making it still like a proper post-Soviet communion. The part of that was completely to Russify the country. And that's why it was never prohibited, but it was completely marginalized. So the schooling has been, there has been one school in Minsk, in the capital, that would teach in Belarusian, and the examples go on. So is it something that we ultimately want, or this is the condition for us that, the Tsikhanouskaya comes back to the country and everybody speaks Belarusian? Obviously, no, we are not in a position to protect anything, but to encourage, absolutely, because in the language lies a history, and to marginalize that is actually to marginalize or to alienate part of who we are. So we absolutely encourage and love that, and this is absolutely should be a part of our culture.
I could add
Please.
just one small thing, like now. Many people who didn't use Belarusian language before started to learn it again and try to speak, even though if they make mistakes and so on. But this is some kind of the symbol, one of others, how to show the protest on the one side, and then I think. After all these events during this year, Belarusians they realized that they're a nation, and find something really strong in their roots and in their culture and history. So this is a very important thing, I think.
Yeah, that was a better answer. Remember that one.
Two more questions while you hop over to these guys. I have one more question for you. You mentioned Russia. Russia was mentioned there, Russian language. What is what are the relations right now in general? I mean, we see Putin is the main protege of Lukashenko. We see Russia giving credits and Lukashenko again buying weapons with this money. What is the current state of relations, and how do the Belarusians see this?
Russia amazingly comes up in every single conversation or meeting Tsikhanouskaya held internationally. And she has this brilliant answer. Why are we talking Russia when we are from Belarus? And also this is a very important message that is also makes her and the entire event is so appealing, that it has absolutely no geopolitical agenda. This is not what's going on in Belarus. It's not about Russia. It's not about being part of the European Union or being part of Russia or supporting this or that. It's about people in the country who want to live free and independently.
But it takes, obviously, it makes when you see like you have the EU on the other side of the block, basically, you could call it, with political leaders voicing their support for the protests, etc.
Yes, it's harder for you to support Belarus because there is a big Balkan neighbor right there. Yes, for sure. And this is a very unfortunate constellation of events. Yes, we know that, unfortunately.
So you'd say that the EU leaders only support these protests because of Russia? No.
No, I'm saying that it's much harder for European Union to act more proactively rather than being deeply concerned. They often are. It's because every time they implement any kind of sanction or any kind of action, they always think of, okay, what would happen with our relationship with Russia then, as a European, as a Belgium, or as Germany, or as France. So this is like a big shadow that also makes our job a little bit harder on international level.
I totally see that, yeah, but maybe I studied geopolitics, maybe it's this point of view. But you basically, one can ignore it. I don't know whether it's totally smart to ignore it, but if you see it, like, what would you wish for in terms of proactive actions by EU leaders?
More sanctions, not working with the Belarusian state enterprises. This will be, if everybody does that and does it immediately and not waiting 5 years before anything could be implemented, that would be really a hit hard enough to undermine that regime.
I guess that's geopolitics, though. I really can't disagree, but
I will chip out my ticket for drinks and then we can talk later.
Okay. Anyway, it's not my time to ask questions. We had 2 questions before. I see one here.
Okay.
Yeah.
A short question. So many people have left. Have you got numbers, approximate numbers, how many people have left Belarus in 2020? 2020,
yeah,
right,
that's
right,
correct.
right.
Well, they still
Right,
do,
and do you see any perspectives of returning to Belarus? Because it's obvious that it's you who are missing there in the country.
Yes, thank you for the question. We don't have actually the numbers, unfortunately, because many people has fled and remained undocumented. All we know that the count is on about 100,000 plus minus. This is all I can say because again, lots of people has fled and without obtaining any further documents, so we don't have any data from the migration service in Poland or Lithuania. But yes, there are dozens of thousands for sure, which is absolutely terrible. I mean, the entire city of Innsbruck has relocated from Belarus in terms of numbers. And yes, do we think that these people should, and we hope that they will come back? Absolutely. That's why it's also a big part of our job trying to maintain connection with those people as well, to involve as much as diaspora in different countries so they all still remain the community of Belarusians and not just those who have fled the country. And this is a huge challenge for us, for the office and for the future Belarus as well, to make the conditions favorable and actually to encourage the return of those people. And they are all absolutely welcome, and we hope that this day will come sooner.
I hate microphones. Do you hear me without
Yes.
microphone? Okay. I have 2 questions, and I'm a bit excited because I hope you don't feel offended. But in the most European countries, especially in the German-speaking countries, using the national flag and the national identity to fight is something really scary. So I wanted to ask, do you think it's necessary for Belarus to have this national identity to fight? And second, are you not afraid that it turns into another totalitarian system?
Well, for the first question, especially for the guy in the back to the microphone, as concerns the symbols, we are not that far gone yet that the national symbols are appropriated by the certain parties or by the certain powers. So there is, and people need a symbol. That's why also art is so helpful. But again, we see it in every single protest in every single country of the world that people need some kind of the symbolic, something they can relate to that embodies and communicates their values, what they stand for. And our historical flag has never been actually compromised in the sense that it has never been used for reasons other than like proper good freedom ideas. So there has never been, and in this current protest, there has never been a connotation of, you know, there are these crazy nationalists or far-right people. No, that has never gone that way. And whether we are afraid that the totalitarian system will resume, well, that's when we'll see that if we've actually succeeded, because that will be like, you know, in a KPI in our job, not when the first fair election happens, but after 5 years, if the candidate will change. So we are all very much aware of that. Part of our commitment is to make sure and to build a system where actually we maintain democracy and it is working, and we will see it in due time. But of course, I think everybody is always afraid that the totalitarian will come back, but we first have to...
Sorry, I got an order. It's not my decision.
We have to find the first one first. I hope this answers your question.
And in terms of sending a symbol, you can also buy this beautiful, I saw you brought bags? No.
Bags. Super bags.
Super bags. And you can buy them outside, and it's got the print on there, which is beautiful. It's red and white, right?
Yes, and there is the story written on the card.
Yes, great. We got one already over there. Are there more questions? Yeah.
I wanted to ask if there is anything you would hope that other protest movements might learn from the Belarusian struggle for a less totalitarian system.
Can you repeat the question?
I think
what was the process?
What other protests could learn from the Belarusian protests?
Creativity for sure, and the peacefulness. Do you have any? Sorry, I took creativity from you. No, being creative and peaceful and remorseless and, you know, persistent. The change does not happen overnight or over 1 or 2 or 3 months.
I think there's one more question over there as well. Yeah, afterwards.
May I?
Sorry. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if you personally believe in a peaceful transition of power at some point, and how the mood in the country about this is. Is there imaginable also a coup d'etat, like the military, you said, may be in this mood to lay down their weapons and maybe change the sides? And yeah, also what are you preparing for in the office of Ms. Tsikhanouskaya? What is the worst situation that you are preparing for?
Where is the plan? This is what people are asking daily. Give us the plan. Yeah, so this is a very complex question, obviously. And as concerns the first part, I absolutely believe that the only way to win is to maintain this protest peaceful. There is absolutely no way this will go well if it turns violent. Are there any ideas about that maybe we should go get weapons and, you know, go to the administration of the president? Of course there are people who believe that, but they are in complete minority, and that against it shows that the any kind of violent resistance is not inclusive. It excludes all the most of the people, and it only ends badly. And it also allows the regime actually to sanction the use of the weapons, although they did this briefly during the protest, but it has never been on a large scale. The moment any protester will go out with a weapon, this will really untie their hands to use the proper weapon against the civilians, which we cannot allow happen by no means. As concerns the question about the military coup, this is very unlikely scenario for many different reasons. One of them being that the military is not united. It's not a single force in Belarus. There are very many different divisions, departments, military representatives. None of them are actually together, and they have never historically been able actually to cooperate, and especially now everybody's fighting for themselves. So to imagine that any of those forces will actually take the lead is very unlikely, also because it's remarkable how all of this system is actually beholden to one person. The moment Lukashenko is gone, it will be like the cart house. It will all fall down because there is absolutely not a single person that can hold power or will have enough I don't know, credibility or enough resources or just enough courage to stand up.
Would you care to share your own personal stories of your exile and how you are operating from abroad now?
Which character?
Your own personal histories.
The stories of exile, how you got into exile, why you're not living in Belarus anymore.
Sorry, yeah. I don't live in Belarus anymore because for many different. Well, first of all, I'm not the classical member of my team because I have not been living in Belarus for a long time. So I joined it in September, the office, when I saw all those events unfolding. Because I was my parents and just the people I know growing up in Belarus have always been in this repression group. So a lot of people since my childhood have been arrested or somehow persecuted by this regime. And I was in more like an active fight until I guess the pre-last election, until 2015. And then nothing again happened, and that was kind of the level of disappointment for me. And I stopped believing that the change is possible for this generation in this country, and I left. And then what was going on was completely kind of resurrected my belief in that this time it's for real. First of all, because of the amount of people. This is the first time when the regions, all the story focuses on Minsk, and usually the news coverage is all about Minsk, Minsk, Minsk. But what is astonishing that every single city in the region actually also has shown these protesters and the public appearance. And the Sviatlana, who was also forced in exile in September, she was abducted by the KGB. She was we don't know the story for real, but she was clearly threatened by the life of her children and her husband. She was forced to read this stupid paper where she said to the camera, "Oh, I'm so sorry for organizing all of this, the election was fair." And then she was sent to Lithuania. And then there was a moment where actually every single odds was against that this will continue. Because for her, there was no reason to go on and to remain to take on this leadership. The people in Belarus was also the mood was fading. And then she came back, and the team assured, and then she said out loud to the entire world that she will stand up there and fight for this. And this was absolute signal that this time this is for real. And that's how I returned from my existence elsewhere and became part of that, because I completely 100,000% believe that this change will happen now, that the situation has changed, that people are in majority for Tsikhanouskaya, and this struggle is completely worth the fight. And what was the second part of the question? Sorry, I went in the memories long ago. I think you asked the second part of the question. How are we operating? Yes. So the office, as I mentioned, is all in Lithuania because most of the people on my team are either extremists or terrorists recognized by the Belarusian state. So we work from abroad, which nowadays, thanks to all amazing technologies like Zoom or Telegram or WhatsApp, makes our operations possible. That means that we can maintain our connection to the people in Belarus, to all those partisans and initiatives and workers, medical workers, students, all those who are still there, which is absolutely essential to our work. Otherwise, we'll be just not sure what's going on. And there is always a danger for every single month. Obviously, despite all of this, there is every single month there is a danger, of losing the touch of what is actually the mood in the country or how far our agenda is for what people are ready for. But I'm sure to say that we still maintain that connection and that it's still quite well organized and working.
Do you want to add your story? Please.
I left Belarus 13 years ago. And last year there was the first election process I joined, actually. As many Belarusians, I was apolitical, as we said, but only last year we woke up. somehow. I went to study to Czech Republic, and only last year, when everything happened, I realized I think many Belarusians felt the same, especially I'm in connection with Belarusians in Czech Republic students, so we had it the same. We left Belarus and we didn't want to come back anymore. So we wanted to build our lives abroad. But after last year and this year, political crisis, actually I myself realized that maybe when the regime fall down, will come back to Belarus, because I feel proud of my people, and I feel a part of the nation, and I would love to live in Belarus. Why not? How do I struggle? I do what I can through the art I do, and I think there is the part where I can present you my new project and ask you to join it if you want. The new project is about political prisoners in Belarus. As you know, probably there are more than 650 officially declaimed by human rights organization Vyasna, but there are much more, as you already said. So I want to create the portrait of every political prisoner, and it will look something like this. So here you have the portrait of the hero, and here is this short situation, how he was or she was detained, or something from special from their lives. And I ask people who want to show their solidarity and to participate in the project. So you will be sent the picture, and you will embroider it, and then send me back the embroidery, and we will collect the whole portraits. And we would like to present it everywhere, well, not everywhere, in different places, cultural centers and galleries. One more thing, when you choose, or we could choose it for you, the person, you will have the information how to contact him or her in Belarus, and to how to connect with them through different platforms that were organized by Belarusians. For example, Vkletachku.org, this is the platform how you could write letters to prisons through internet. So you just message and send it, and then the platform organized sending letters to the prisons. Yes, at the same time, you could communicate with each other, the participants of the project, and also, as I said, between we would like to make the connection between prisoners and participants of the project. And one more thing. Embroidering is very time consuming, so, and I think it's the most important you could give to the people who are in prison, your time, your lifetime. So you're welcome. It's just an idea now. I will present more information about the projects, how it will go on, and you could find some motifs. I think it will be somewhere in the spring, because I have to start preparing the pictures. So if you would like to join it, you're welcome to follow my Instagram account. It's Rufina Bazlova, one word. Or I'm here. Oh yes, okay. The advertisement. But I'm here. You could come and leave me your email if you want.
I think we have time for 2 more questions. Yes. I have one, so.
It's about Russia?
It's not about Russia. We got one over there, yeah.
After what happened to Protasevich, does traveling through Europe feel any different to you both?
I think it's...
Maybe we should quickly explain who he is.
Yes, so for those of you who do not know, who are living in the cave and do not read the news of Ryanair infamous hijacking, the Ryanair flight was crossing the territory from Athens to Lithuania, flying somewhere near the border of Belarus, and was hijacked. Was 2 military planes just appearing in the air and directing the pilots to drop down, just to land the plane in Minsk airport. Because the plane actually carried on the board Roman Protasevich, who was the main editor of one of the biggest Telegram channels, which for Belarusians has become one of the main actually channels of communication and one of the main news channel. So he was the editor of one of the biggest one, Belarus Glavnova Mozga, which is actually untranslatable, so just don't bother. And yes, so he was hijacked from the plane, and he and his girlfriend, they have been taken to prison, tortured. After that, Raman appeared on the numerous state propaganda channels, making all kinds of coming out, saying that, you know, after being with KGB, you will say whatever you can, and that's basically what he did. So he became a puppet for the regime. And that has set the precedent, and that also showed the people in Europe that actually you are not, none of you are safe having a cycle like this in the middle of Europe. So that resulted in a closure of the airspace over the Belarus. Now it's almost like a black hole. The only flights operating are to Russia and to the east. I think you can fly to Abu Dhabi or to Africa. So that has affected the travel of a lot of people. Mainly, I mean, in Belarus it's still, anyhow, it's almost shut down, but it became impossible to fly from that country. Has it affected Belarusians who are living or residing abroad to travel elsewhere? No. I mean, there is no prohibitions. It's not like, it's an interesting idea actually. Propaganda should use it, like, you know, it's dangerous for you to transfer Belarusians, just prohibit them to take the plane. No, but it hasn't happened yet.
If there's no really urgent question, I would pose my question. So, I was actually quite surprised that Lukashenko tried to force out Tsikhanouskaya and also help me, Kolesnikova. It's only that she wasn't brought abroad just because she tore apart her passport before the border. Would you consider it a smart move to basically put the most vocal voices and basically the strongest voices and the most dangerous to Lukashenko abroad, where they can debate and act freely? Or
But this is what not the regime is counting for driving these people abroad. First of all, I mean, the old way will be kill them in the forest, which has become a little bit old-fashioned, and also would probably, because there has been so much attention for those figures internationally, he will not just go away with it that easily.